Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, since Inauguration Day, the Senate has been slowly making its way through confirming cabinet secretaries. Democrats, it seems, have used just about every trick in the book to try to slow down the process. There are Democrats here in the Senate who are delaying things even when other Democrats in the Senate support the person who's actually been nominated by the president. Remember, when President Obama took office, Republicans were far more willing to let the president have the team he wanted. He had won the election and was entitled to his cabinet. Well, Mr. President, we're now 39 days into President Trump's term, and the Senate has confirmed now 17 of his nominees, 17 over 39 days. President Obama got 20 of his people confirmed in just the first 9 days. It does seem that the more the Democrats delay, the more the American people will see that Democrats are just being childish and spiteful. One of the most recent people who the Democrats have been delaying is Congressman Ryan Zinke. He's been nominated to be Secretary of the Department of Interior. Now, we've all heard about his qualifications for the job. His time serving the people of Montana in the state Senate and in the House of Representatives is something that people hold up as why he is qualified for this job. They say he's a Navy SEAL. He's an adopted member of the Fort Peck tribes. He's a Westerner, and as a Westerner, Ryan Zinke understands the importance of the position that he's been now nominated to fill. But don't take my word for it. Listen to Senator Tester, Democrat from Montana, who came to the confirmation hearing for Congressman Zinke, and he said so. He said, quote, "I believe it is very important for someone who knows the West to serve as Interior Secretary." He was full of praise for this nominee. Senator Tester actually took the time to come to the Energy and Natural Resources Committee and tell all of us on the committee about his support for Congressman Zinke to be Secretary of Interior. He actually said, quote, "I am honored," he said, "to introduce Congressman Zinke to this committee." He went on to say, "I trust that this Navy SEAL will shoot straight as they always do." Mr. President, the Department of Interior manages an incredible amount of acreage and water resources. It's responsible for protecting thousands of species of animals and plants. The person who heads up this department has a very big and important job to do. We need someone in this job, someone who can work with people who are most invested in the good stewardship of our natural resources. And, that's the people who actually live on the land. I believe that Congressman Zinke will do exactly that. He will work with states and with communities to find solutions that work for everyone. Because America's natural resources actually belong to all of us. He understands that Washington does not always get the answers right. And he certainly knows that when Washington comes up with a one-size-fits-all approach, it can do real damage. During Congressman Zinke's confirmation hearing, I asked him about some of the policies that we've seen over the past few years that have been restricting American energy production. He said he thinks that the correct policy on energy development is all of the above. Well, I agree. Do Democrats really object to using all of our options for creating the energy that we need to power our economy, to power our country? We should be trying to make American energy as clean as we can, as fast as we can, and do it in ways that don't raise costs for American families. I think Congressman Zinke understands this, and I think he will do all that he can to make sure that we achieve what we need, which is the right balance. Democrats on the committee actually think so as well. His nomination was reported out of the committee on a strong bipartisan vote of 16-6. That is a significant bipartisan show of support for the nominee. But the obstructionists on the other side, well, I think they should listen to their colleagues and give up the delaying tactics and the senseless obstruction that's ongoing. There's one other nomination I'd like to mention today, Mr. President, and that's the nomination of Governor Rick Perry to be Secretary of Energy. Once again, we have a nominee who is totally qualified to lead the department. Democrats have no real objection to the candidate. They just want to delay. Now, we need to have an energy secretary in place as soon as possible. Again, this was a nominee who drew bipartisan praise in his confirmation hearings. And his nomination, again, bipartisan vote in the committee, a strong vote of 16-7. Senator Joe Manchin, a member of the Democrat leadership, actually introduced Governor Perry at the hearing. He said that Rick Perry is, quote, uniquely qualified to hold this position. Senator Manchin praised the nominee's ability to work across the aisle to get things done. That's important. It's important in a cabinet secretary, and it's important for all of us here in the Senate. Well, I appreciate Senator Manchin and the other Democrats who've reached across the aisle and have supported Rick Perry's nomination. They're willing to put aside the petty calls for gridlock that some of the other members of their party have been making. I mentioned the importance of having a responsible all-of-the-above energy policy. This includes energy sources such as liquefied natural gas. The problem right now is that the Energy Department has got a very large backlog of permits to export this gas. These are permits where all of the environmental reviews have already been completed. Still, the permits haven't been issued. The Energy Department has just been sitting on the permits. Bipartisan majorities in Congress have said that we need to speed up this permitting process. It is time for us to have a new energy secretary in office today to start tackling this backlog. That's something we need this department to do. There is no need or reason for delay. Governor Perry knows how to get this department focused, how to get it moving, and how to make sure it is doing its job. Now, Mr. President, there are reasonable and responsible Democrats here in the Senate who agree that doing the job is more important than just trying to run out the clock. Governor Perry and Congressman Zinke have been nominated to do important jobs for the American people. They are qualified. They are ready. We need them in office to do these jobs now. There is bipartisan support. We need to vote not someday in the future. We need to vote now. The President deserves to have his cabinet. He needs them in place. And it's regretful that a group of Democrats have decided to stand in the way of what's best for the American people. Deliberate obstruction. So I urge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to stop the charade, stop the delays. It's time for us to vote on these nominations. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor. Suggest the absence of a quorum.